Okay. Okay, well, I might first start and ask if sorry, I'm speaking to the microphone. I'll start and see if the people on Zoom can see and hear us. So if Risa, can you respond for us, please?
Hello, I see and hear everybody fine. Well, I see you, Alan.
That's good. Thank you, Risa. This is a new experience for me because I'm stood with my back to the computer and looking at the camera instead. Okay.
We have to learn new skills.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I need eyes in the back of my head. Okay, well, look, I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting this evening. We have 5 participants here. And how many have we got on Zoom, Scott?
We've got 6 people tuning on Zoom. 5 actually.
5. Okay, so we're even numbers. So thank you all for attending. And tonight we have a guest speaker, Anne, who is going to tell us about the slow food Hunter Valley. So we look forward to that. Just before we get underway, I will acknowledge that I think we're on Awabakal land here. So we do acknowledge elders past and present. And I guess from a permaculture point of view, it's interesting to think on the fact that the Aboriginal people lived on this land in a sustainable manner for many generations. And hopefully we can get back to that sort of arrangement in our generation. But we live in hope, and we'll I guess we'll see what happens. Lots of things happening at the moment with the potential voice to Parliament and what have you. So I'm really hopeful that that will be a positive experience for the country, and that the Aboriginal people feel as welcome in Australia as I do as an immigrant. That would be a really good outcome. So anyway, I'll end on that, and I'll hand over to Anne.
Thank you.
So you can be the custodian of the microphone.
Thank you. Can I?
You can clip it to your shirt if you want to.
Can I just hook down my
Yep, you
collar?
can clip it there or on your sleeve. It'll
Okay,
work
well,
either way.
sleeve maybe?
Which would be most comfortable for you?
Maybe sleeve might be best.
Sleeve? Okay. Let's see. Can I pinch your sleeve
Yeah,
so
of course,
that
of course.
it cleans up towards your...
Yep,
That
okay.
should work pretty well, I think.
Thank you. And will I just stand here, like where you were, so I can... Yep, okay.
Yep.
All right.
I might flop it out a bit on your sleeve. Is it okay if we pinch this part of the shirt?
Yep, no problems at all. Let me get off there. So just up here?
Do that, yeah, if
Okay.
you like.
All right. Huh? Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay, well, thank you for being here. I also would like to acknowledge that we are on the land of the Wanneroo people, and that as I've forgotten your name, as Alan said, that the sustainability aspect of the 60,000+ years of occupation of Australia is something that we really need to reflect on, really, about how quickly we've managed to change that in 200 years. So we do acknowledge that we are on that land, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and hope that we can contribute something towards going back to what was a much better time for the country of Australia, for our country. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Anne Kelly, and I'm the current leader of Slow Food Hunter Valley. We're about to have an AGM, and we may look for some new change over there, which would be interesting. I've been the leader for about 4 years. And hopefully I'm not in danger of giving you death by PowerPoint, but I've got quite a lot of pictures. I'm talking about the gardens that we have in our work with Slow Food, but I need to also give you an idea of what we do, all of our other work that we do, because we are quite a big, we have quite a lot of things that we do in the Hunter Valley, particularly around the Maitland area. We are called Hunter Valley, Slow Food Hunter Valley, so we do include the Newcastle area and further up the valley. but most of our work is in Maitland, often supported by the local council, and most of our members that are active are in the Maitland area, so we tend to be mostly Maitland centric. We would love to be more Newcastle centric, but it's just a matter of manpower with volunteer groups. Okay, so next slide.
Okay.
Thank you.
And can we just check with everybody at home that you can see Anne's slides well there? Can someone?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, Anne.
That's all right. That's fine.
I like your snail, Anne.
Yeah, it's a lovely motive, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's very nice motive, and it's a trademark of the group. We do use it in green for our earth market, but the red snail is supposed to be the one that we're supposed to use as much as we can. Okay, so I'll talk about that picture there quickly. That's just a group of us. That's actually our earth market group. So there's a few producers in that group. It's quite an old image, probably taken 3 or 4 years ago. So you can see Amaryl. So I will mention Amaryl over and over again. Amaryl Dempster is the Sri Lankan lady here in the white. She is the heart and soul of Slowfood Hunter Valley. She was our regional councillor for the last 5 or 6 years. She's now on the board of compliance with Slow Food, the international group, which is based in Italy. And she's an amazing person with a huge amount of energy, great passion for the role that she takes in Slow Food, and she is a very creative soul. So we are driven by her ideas, really, and whether or not she's the leader, she does drive what we do, because she generates so many ideas and has so much passion that we have no time for anything else. So she's an amazing lady. So are we able to move on? Okay, so this fellow is Carlo Petrini. He's a start of Slow Food. So in the mid-80s in Rome, the Americans thought they might put a nice little McDonald's into Rome, and Carlo was completely incensed about this idea and started the Slow Food movement, which was at that stage a reaction against the stealing of Italian food culture. Basically, we've got this wonderful food culture. Why would we want the Americans to come and put this monstrosity in Rome? And of course the movement's matured as all movements do mature. And Carlo is no longer the head of Slow Food. He just resigned as of last year, but he's still very active in the group and drives with passion the work that we do now, which is really moving into as climate change issues, a lot of that sort of stuff, but lots of other things as well. So that's when it was founded in 1986. That's a fairly recent photo. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so just our structure. So we are a movement. We're part of a movement. So we have the sort of 3-level structure. So we have an international level. So there's a number of people who work in an office in Italy who oversee the whole worldwide movement. There's about 160 countries. I think it's a bit less than that currently involved. They have groups that work within their country in the name of Slow Food. And then we just have our new leader is a African farmer. So that's wonderful to have an African now heading up, a young man and a farmer. And the election for that was in July, actually last year, because I wrote some of these texts last year. So that's last year, before Terra Madre last year. There's also a national level, which doesn't really have much impact in Australia. We do have a national leader. His role is more to communicate with the international office about what Australian groups are doing. But it doesn't really have a huge bearing on what we do as an individual group. It's very much a grassroots movement, and that's where the local level comes in. So that local level allows us to do what we want to do in our area. So it's very much tailored to what the talents of the people in the volunteer group are and what the issues that they see in their area. So that's how we work. So there's the Slow Food Foundation for Biodiversity. So that was established in 2003. The Terra Madre Foundation, which is about supporting the network of communities, and also works to have this massive coming together every 2 years where people physically come together, except for COVID, in Turin, in Italy, and and share and talk and educate and do all those sorts of things. And that's usually in September, and that just happened last year. And then the University of Gastronomic Sciences, which is a university for future food people. So our work is in food equity. That really, that's how I see it these days, is food equity, and anything that's involved in that. So anything in that sphere is what is a valid thing that slow food does work in. It's not about cooking in the slow cooker, which we still get that quite a bit. No. Yes, I know. Thank you. All right, so our mantra is good, clean and fair food for all. So that's what we do. So if the thing that we're doing is working in that area, then we're doing what we need to do. It includes culture, politics, agriculture and environment, and we are becoming, well, particularly our group with Amaryl as lead, as leader in this area, is becoming more vocal in the advocacy area as well. And I'll talk about that a bit further on. So it's just anything that's about food, about people not having access to good food, good food, not horrible food, good food, high nutrition, fresh, local if possible. Yeah, so that's what we do, and it's to change the world. So all movements have got to change the world, otherwise there's no point in having them, is there? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so these are our three. As the years have gone on, it refines itself and evolves and changes. So currently we work under these three pillars of biodiversity, which is probably the number one pillar that slow food always had to start off with. That was the original argument of Carla, was that bringing in American fast food thing would kill biodiversity in food culture, in everything, which is just a disaster to Americanise everything and make it all horrible. Education, so we work in education, and advocacy is the third arm. So we try and see whether what we're doing fits into those things, as well as the good, clean and fed. Is it advocacy? Is it education? Is it biodiversity? Yeah. So yeah. So we had our last big meeting of all of people was in 2022. We sent 4 delegates to Terra Madre. So we raised money to pay for their fares to go there, their accommodation to be there, and the Terra Madre people. From Maitland? Yes, from Maitland, yes. And the Terra Madre, the Slow Food International funds their food for most of that time, and then puts on a huge number of things. You can spend the whole time at the open air market, which might have 600 stalls, which sells food from all over, mostly Europe, of course, because the importation is an issue. But you can get any sort of farmer food that you can imagine is at Terra Madre in the stalls there. You can go and when I went there in 2016, I did gin tasting from all over the world. I ate a Roman meal that was all about the history of food in Rome, 2,000-year-old type of meal. I attended a conference on migration and climate change, how that was causing migration, causing famine, all that sort of stuff. So it's a huge number of things. Our 4 delegates all had a role. So Marcus spoke about wine in the New World, which is interesting. He took the idea that there's nothing new about wine in the New World, and actually everything's done on stolen land, which is a bit of an unusual way to do it. It wasn't what they were expecting, I don't think. Sophie is in agroecology, so she worked in regeneration, forestry, that sort of thing. And Ruth Neve, who is in local government, she was into advocacy and working with, there was work on how do you work in local government to make change, that sort of thing. And Amaryl, she just talks about everything really. So yeah, so last year it was in the old Mercedes, no, not Mercedes. Give me another car. Fiat was 2000 and some years ago, but the last one was another car. We're talking Italian? Yes, Italian cars. Yes, Ferrari, I think. Building that was gone, has been converted. The year I went, it was on the river. So they change it around according to security issues. There's often an issue why they might put it inside. But there's a number of centres in Turin. It's the most beautiful city that they've been old factories that have been converted into beautiful spaces for conferences, and just gorgeous work. There's some very beautiful buildings there. So so in 2022 that should be. It was held in the Park Adora, which is the site of the old steelworks. Hang on, I thought it was the Ferrari factory. The old steelworks. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. And yeah, and that's where it was it was done. Yeah. So yeah, it was. Then we had those couple of years of COVID, of course, where we tried an online thing, but I don't think it had the impact that having, I don't know how many, not millions, but hundreds, tens of thousands of people, 100,000 people together, learning, talking, sharing, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, so I think hopefully we'll always have that actual meeting of the minds together in Turin every 2 years. Okay, thanks. Okay, so there's our delegates, Marcus, Sophie are one of that, and actually two of the delegates, and Liz, who's Marcus's wife. And there's a sort of just a couple of shots. So this is a native bee thing. So there's precincts in the town, like the beer precinct, and there's the honey precinct and that sort of thing, as well as this big open market. And then there's all of the talks and lectures and things that go on as well. It's a 5-day event. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. And there's people from all over the world. Of course, there's like people who just bring a handful of grain from Africa and sit there with their grain and tell you about their grain that they've been growing for, millennia, and that's all that sort of depth of, it's just amazing. It's mind-blowing, really. So these are just some different people. These are the interpreters. So anything that's got a workshop where there's a number of nationalities presenting, there'll be a bank of interpreters that are listening to it all and speaking you to microphones and telling you what's going on. And there's some kids doing sticking seeds on. Probably it seems to be a regular thing to do, stick on seeds. So, yep. So I wasn't at this one, so I'm not sure who all these different people are. So next, thanks. Okay, so so in the Hunter Valley we have 2 local groups. They're called there's still that word convivium, which is the Italian word for conviviality. It comes from conviviality, I suppose. And we have a little community. So there's a couple of levels of membership now. The Convivium still has quite an expensive membership model. So a working person pays about $60 a year, I think, for membership, which is a bit expensive. But the community can decide what they want to charge to belong to Slow Food. So we have the main Convivium, and then we have the Singleton community. And Sophie, who's the young lady there that went to Terra Madre last year, has taken on leadership of the Singleton community, which is just fabulous. So that's some lovely new blood there. And then in the Hunter Valley, in the Slow Food Hunter Valley community, the Maitland-based community, we have these projects, the Earth Market, which a number of your connections take their stuff to the Earth Market. I'll talk about that in a minute. The Food Rescue Kitchen and the Seed Library, they're our main 3 activities. The Food Rescue Kitchen is now sponsored out of the Showground. The Seed Library and the Maitland Earth Market are both partnerships with council. So yeah, we're lucky to have council involved. They love us, and we do our best for them. So yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, so that's an Earth Market picture, an early Earth Market picture, long time ago. So the Earth Market's been around for 5 years now in the Earth Market form as a formal Earth Market. Earth Markets are a part of the Slow Food International structure. There are Earth Markets, there are 70 around the world. Ours is the only one in Australia. The Earth Market works by having, there's a set of rules for an Earth Market. So it has to be set up in collaboration with your local council, with a local government body. We don't charge the producers for any time or space or anything. There's no rent involved, and that's part of their MOU with council as well, but that's generally what happens. We provide the volunteers that help set up the infrastructure. We do all of their advertising, social media work, negotiating with council about traffic and that sort of stuff. We take it all down, and then they just pack up and off they go home. So we have a number of producers. Chrissy was one of our producers. She's busy with her other work now. And I think there was someone else who I thought you might know too. There's another one of you guys who's there. Mark has been at the Earth Market on and off. So what happens is if you're going to be a long-term producer, you just bring your gear and you get some insurance, some market insurance. If you've got a big tree that's full of oranges, you just ring Amaryl up and say, look, can I come to the market on this day? I've got this huge lot of oranges. Can I sell these oranges? And she says yes, and she'll give you a spot. So it happens tomorrow. The Earth Market is on the 1st and 3rd Thursdays of the month. It happens tomorrow. So the crew will be down there at 7 o'clock. They'll set up all the marquees in the street, and the producers drive in about 7:30, 8 o'clock, set their stuff up. They sell, then they pack up about 12:30 and everyone goes home happy. So that's how it works. It's an amazing thing. We do it because we get access to these guys' beautiful food. They bring it to us and we can buy it. So we love it. And the community, our community gets that food. Our farmers don't have a middleman. They just bring their stuff. They have to be there. Someone from the farm has to be there. It's part of the international earth market rules says producers must be there so we can talk to them. So they've got to be there. It doesn't have to be organic, but it has to be the best that they can do. So there's little pesticide as possible. And it has to be, I think only 10% of it can be transformed, that's like something that's made into something like jam or something. So it has to be, it's all fresh food. There's we do have boomerang bags turn up, and the CWA comes up once a month as well, but they're actually not, if you looked at the contract, that actually isn't the international slow food thing, that isn't quite right, but we let them do it, they bring customers to us. And then we also do food rescue. So I'm not sure what the next slide is, but okay, so you might know Lucy. Do you know Lucy from Shepherd's Ground? Lucy and Marco? Yeah, Lucy's a regular producer these days with flowers. She doesn't say Shepherd's Ground, it's just Lucy and Marco. So flowers and rhubarb and whatever she's got basically. So she's a real regular. These guys are Phoenix Farm. They're on the other side of the bridge at Morpeth, and they're there most weeks. So who else have we got? In the levies, in the levy. They don't stop the traffic for us, but they have given. We have a whole lot of maps and stuff about how many stalls can go between the trees and the beds and all that sort of stuff. So they don't stop the traffic, but they are helpful. They come along, and the council I'm talking about, they come along and check and make sure everything's okay, because they've got issues with if someone gets run over by someone, there's a whole lot of, councils are like, there's health and safety and there's traffic and there's everything else. So we do our best to make sure that we don't annoy them too much. And I think it's a good partnership. We ran last year, we had a one-off last year when there was a flood. And we actually ran an extra one in January. We don't normally have any markets in January, but this year, there was so much produce around that we had one in January. So we run like 22 markets a year. And it's now in its 6th year, so it's mature now, it's established, and we have other things going on. So we're trying to get some yoga people down there, and Amaryl does a bit of a cook, and they have a food demonstration, and there's a couple of bands and buskers and stuff. So it's really nice, and it's a very lovely feel, nice and early in the morning, all gone by the heat. So it's really good. So Woody is a mushroom producer from the Central Coast. So we also have a radius. The producers can't be any more than 100k, which is it's like like a European market. You'd have people that would be less than 20k's, but in our agricultural system, you have to, and our scale, we have to have it bigger. But there'll be no one more than about 50. Oh no, Woody would be the furthest, Central Coast, and that's Tom. Do you know Tom, garlic producer? Tom, up at Flat Hilldale. Flowers, and his gorgeous flowers. He's one of our foundation producers, Tom. Flowers and garlic, beautiful flowers, gorgeous flowers. They live at Dungog. They've got a shop at Dungog. They're in a florist there. Yeah, they have a market at Dungog once on Saturdays as well. But yeah, Tom's an original producer. What else have we got? Felicia, there's some volunteers who turn up every market and just love to do that for the producers. Felicia's grows Vietnamese produce. Yep, next one. And there's Chrissy, yeah. So Chrissy we gave an award for the most innovative producer, and Chrissy picked that up last year. So it was an inaugural award, so to celebrate someone one of our store holders who passed away last year. So it's very nice. So yeah, so we celebrated our 5th Earth Market on last August. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the Food Rescue Kitchen, so this is another arm. So we've got the Earth Market sits out here with our connection to the producers, and then we have the Food Rescue Kitchen. So that started because Amaryl was, one of the farmers came in before the Earth Market. I think just someone, Amaryl, you don't know if there was an Earth Market happening at that stage, and he had a big crop of pumpkins, and they were dirty, and the supermarket said, can't have those, or whatever it was, the guy that takes them up there because they're dirty. So he came to see Amaryl. I've got to turn in my 20 kilos, 20 tonnes of pumpkin because they won't take them. Well, that wasn't going to happen. So she's up, oh, we can't do this. What are we going to do with this? So we ended up shifting about 20 tonne of pumpkins. Some people came from Newcastle to get them. We had this big pumpkin thing, got press and all, this went crazy. Yeah, we moved, and that's how that was before the Earth Market. So we were playing around with markets, I think, at that stage, and this was before the Earth Market, because we had this little market going, but the Earth Market gave it the slow food. That was part of the slow food credibility. So this is Jim Plump, who's big in Rotary. We weren't sure about that photo, but I just love it. So he's yeah, doing stuff. So then Oz Harvest came on board. So we did that with the pumpkins came along, and that was sort of the start about what do you do with this stuff that is wasted, because Matt, who is the main producer for us, had that issue quite a lot about the quality of his produce. If it wasn't perfect, they wouldn't take it. So he'd grow a whole thing, the inputs, everything else that goes with it, and they'd say we don't want that. So yeah. So that was an issue. Amaral was challenged by the editor of the Mercury, Eve Nesmith, at the time, and she said, well, you do something about it then, Amaral. So we started the Food Rescue Kitchen. We didn't have Oz Harvest to start off with. We just worked with whatever Matt had, or any of the farmers had that they didn't want to use. So, and then Oz Harvest came on board. And in 2021, we produced 10,000 meals from stuff from farmers and Oz Harvest. A bit down the last couple of years with ups and downs with different things, but we actually produced all the way through COVID. People found it, they were happy to work they actually work in Amaral's kitchen. This is Amaral Dempster's kitchen, I think, at the cafe at East Maitland, that's her business. And we worked out of that for the first 6 years, possibly 7 years. We've now moved down to the showground. I'm not sure what the next picture says. Can I look and see? Oh yeah, so that's still in the cafe. So Oz Harvest, Oz Harvest brings the ingredients to us on a Monday. The volunteers come in, they sort it. On Tuesday they chop it. On Wednesday they chop it a bit more. On Thursday they cook it. On Friday they pack it and send it and put it in the fridge. And on Monday Oz Harvest comes in, drops their new stuff, picks up the cooked stuff and delivers it. So, but we also have a number of churches that came on board during COVID. So there's about 3 churches that we also deliver to now, local churches. So yeah, so last year was 8,000 meals, and they're all delivered in the Maitland area. So it's a very impressive amount of food. The volunteers just love it. It's a real community. They love coming, seeing each other, talking away. We've now moved down to the showground. So I don't know what the next one is. Yeah, the showground. So because that was just like, Amaral was amazing, and working in the actual kitchen that was trying to make cafe food and make a business. And she did it for years, and then she's thinking about sustainability. How do we keep this project going if Amaral decides not to do it anymore and she sells the cafe, which is possibly going to happen? Then we need something else. So we're down at the showground now. We've moved into what was a Teapot Cafe in Maitland. Luckily, Maitland owns their own showground. Well, Maitland Showground owns the showground. Unlike you guys, who state government took your showground back, we actually own the showground in Maitland. So yeah, state government's taken back quite a number of showgrounds. So yeah. So we own the Maitland showground owns the Maitland showground, so we're able to use that. Yeah. So that's Amaral there with a thing. So that's okay. So the third major project is a seed library, which it might be somewhere that you guys can help with us, because accessing seed is very difficult. Another COVID project of Amaral's, probably our most recent project. So that's a collaboration with the library. There's lots of seed libraries around now, and like all seed libraries, we struggle to maintain our seed stock, but we get there. So it's a sort of it's still a not mature project. Both the Earth Market and the Food Rescue Kitchen are both mature projects really now after quite a few years. It's a lovely project. So there's lots of changes in our council, in the library staff. So we're just establishing with some people who are interested in doing it, because initially it was just handed over to someone, and the someone didn't know anything about seeds, so the someone wasn't that, like how it goes. So you've got to find the right people. So it's a nice project, and we are working on that, try and make it a little bit more established, I guess, more mature. But if anyone has any seed that they want to pass over to us, it's been a terrible couple of years for seed, as you would know, because of all the rain. Nothing actually dried out. So yeah, but we get there. We do buy if we have to. We just buy some seed. We've got money, so we just buy some seed. That's what you raise money for. So, yeah. Yep. Oh, well, you don't even have to be a library member. We did have an online catalogue, but at the moment that's having a little bit of a rest because of the complexity of a library person actually updating catalogues. I think it's really a lot of work to know what's actually in the library and where it is. If you've got 3 or 4 libraries, is there any in this library? Is there any in this library? You know, it's like a full-time job. And so, you know, you sneak these projects in and council says yes, but actually there's no MOU or anything as yet. So, you know, the roles are still like a bit muddy, and how much can you expect the library to do when they've actually got they've already got a job in a library as a librarian, so you're adding on top. So just refining how that works really. So yeah, but we're getting there. We'll get that sorted. So currently the seed is just available. You go into the libraries, any of the Maitland libraries they all have them. If there's any seed there, just take what you want, basically. And also the Earth Market is another 5th outlet for the seed library. So there's a seed library stall at the Earth Market usually, if there's a volunteer for that. And it's just whatever's there can be taken. So this is just, this is my school, and we've collected quite a lot of seeds at school. I have access to a garden there. And then there's some of the other ones that have been done. So yeah, it's a lovely project. It just needs to be just a bit more time on it. Yeah, okay. So, and there's some seed education going on. So, so part of the seed library role is to be involved in educating children, as in all of our roles really, but particularly the seed library. And that's Kendall doing some seed tape at one of the festivals in Maitland. And there's just our boys doing some judging at the show. That's another thing that we do, but anyway, keep going. All right, so there's some of our resources. So we put together a planting guide a couple of years ago now, and there's some kids getting some snake beans from my garden school. Yeah, so, okay, thank you. So advocacy is a developing role. So, I mean, advocacy is quite a hard role. You've got to really be very confident and know where you are. Amaryl is a very confident person, so she'll step up even if she's not really sure exactly of the issues, but she'll just get in there and learn about the issues. So, so we've had a few major campaigns just recently. Less recently was the GMO legislation changes. I don't know if you know about those. They just lessened the rules a little bit, so you could do a little bit of CRISPR stuff, and didn't have to do too much application for it. So. Unsuccessful, but we walked up and down Cessnock and did a bit of rahing and that sort of thing. More successful was the water rights for producers in the Hunter tidal pool. So the Hunter Water wanted the farmers who harvest water from the tidal pool, which is the lower Hunter, where most of our farmers are that we get stuff from, and tell them when the water was too salty for them to use it by using a gauge back up the river a bit. And our farmers were quite incensed because they felt that they knew exactly what was going on with their water. So we also included our turf farmers in this as well, any farmers that were using their water in that lower pool. And we all got everyone together, made a big fuss about it, had a few public meetings, put the case to the Hunter Water, and they decided that they would leave the Hunter tidal pool alone, that the producers probably could handle that water quite well. They weren't going to pour salty water on their vegetables and grass, really, basically. So, but yeah, so that was good. Yeah, so that's what they were doing. That's what they're up to. So that's where we are there. And the current one is, of course, the Varroa incursion. So that's an ongoing thing. I think we were hoping that maybe they would look at managing it, but they're not going to do that. The legislation's passed, so it's just a matter of currently fighting for the pollinator, the farmers who need pollinators, because it did seem that. Well, we know that the Department of Agriculture just didn't seem to realise that there was anyone farming in Maitland that might be impacted by no bees. So they now have a profile due to Amaryl's work. There's something on Landline on the 16th where they've interviewed Amaryl and also Matt and Liam who are farming, to talk about the damage it's done, particularly like Maitland pumpkin pickers. Maitland is pumpkin city, really, pumpkin central, and there's, they need bees. It seems that the smaller things aren't able to pollinate the bigger bigger plant. So that's an ongoing thing, and it will be, because it seems to be, they haven't got it, have they? It's spreading. So yeah, so there's some work that Amaral particularly has done, supporting, getting the farmers together, because the farmers are quite reticent to get up there and do anything. They need someone to sort of push them along and rev them up. That's it. So she's very good at doing that, and she'll do the work, and she'll stand up and talk for them. So she's just fantastic. So we've been supporting her in that, but it really is another Amaral show there. She's just wonderful. Yeah. Okay, so other things that we've done. It's just, I know I want to go into gardens, but drought boxes to Gundy, GMO campaigns, water issues, pollination, food boxes for those in need in the last 2 winters. And we raise our funds through a few means. We get some grants, they're useful. Tokal is our main fundraiser. So we run the food stall in the Good Food and Wine Hall, and we usually make about $7,000 sort of dollars, a bit more. But there's constant dribbling of money from different things. The Earth Market makes a bit of money most weeks, and we did some work we made a couple like $1,500 at the show that was just gone, and then we'll go to Taste and make a few hundred there, or a couple of thousand maybe. So we just plod along, and it just builds up. So that's how we get our money to do what we do. Yeah. Okay, so gardens. So we don't actually have any gardens ourselves. Like, we don't own any property. We don't have an office. The address is my house. There isn't anything physical with Slow Food. So our gardens they're handed over after time. We don't have any physical property. So these are the gardens that we've done work on. So my school, I work at Tulare Public School. That's my kitchen garden, which is now Slow Food, has nothing to do with doing any work in it. But I do use Slow Food to sell some herbs for making money for my garden. The Wataka Community Garden, Central Australia, the Native Food Gardens funded by the Community Environment Grants, Hume Housing Garden, and the 10,000 Gardens in Africa, which is a Slow Food project. Yeah, okay. So I'll start with this one. This is one of my favourite projects with Slow Food. All we do is just give them some money. So we every year we try to give Slow Food International €1,000, and that goes to establish a garden somewhere, usually in Africa, where there's not much infrastructure, and it supports a community, or we think helps support the community, to get a garden going. So that's all we do. We don't do anything else with it. We just give them the money to start a garden. And we try to do one a year, because I think it's just the best thing. It's a wonderful thing that we as a wealthy, Western country can give this money, and it can make a big difference to very poor places. Sometimes the gardens, I think, don't always work. Like, it's very difficult. There's lots of political issues in a lot of these countries. Some gardens don't work. People go away, or doesn't flourish or whatever. So we really don't know very much about how they go. We try to build up some connections there, but it's quite a difficult thing to do, and we need to have someone, to find someone dedicated. We've got someone interested in doing it, but just the connection with Africa in these remote places is very difficult to establish any sort of communication, quite hard to do. So, but that's a really wonderful project, of course. So we actually have nothing to do with it physically. We just send €1,000. Yeah. This project was a very exciting project. We started in 2014. So I went with Amaral and another woman, went out to this area that's about 400 k's out of Alice Springs, near Kings Canyon. And there were these 3 very small communities. The connection there again was Amaral. Amaral had a connection with St Andrew's Cathedral School in Sydney. There was a bunch of lawyers who were connected to that school as well. There was a man called Reg Ramsden who lives in this community area, and has worked with these people for a long time, and takes wealthy children from high-paying fee schools in New South Wales and Victoria out, like take 20 boys and put them here and put them sleeping under the stars, and they help to do some work on a house or do something. So he had this connection, these sort of connections with these quite involved lawyers, and Reg, that the involved lawyers supported Reg with his work. And there's a school there. They actually built a school that they were supporting, or there's a school there, but they were supporting that school. So we decided that we would like to. Amaral already wanted to give them. There's no fresh food. If you go to Alice Springs and these communities, they drive in. It takes all day to drive in. They do a bit of shopping. they're all on benefits, unemployment benefits. There's not much work out there. They can't afford to come back, fill their car up to come back. So they stay there for 2 weeks, wait for the next dole to come through. And they buy all this food. It's all tin food, spaghetti stuff, and they drive home. That's what they do. And that's what they eat. It's just like, you know, spaghetti and tin food, which is because there's no fresh gardens. So we thought we might be able to help with that. So we did the sort of 4 years, I think, where we had Andrew, was Amaril's husband, went out there. Mark went out there, Mark from Purple Pear, and planned some gardens. And then Andrew went back once or twice a year to work on those gardens. I went out there with another group about, I don't know, when, 2016 maybe, not sure when. And we did quite a lot of establishing of gardens and building them. It was a wonderful project and we all loved our involvement. The time we went with the big group, we actually got to work in the classroom with the teacher there. She was doing wonderful work. We did some cooking with the kids. It was just fantastic. But in the end, it's all about ownership, and in the end, they didn't own it, so we had to leave it because it was a very expensive project, you can imagine. All the travel, we paid for all our travel out there. Amarillo got a grant from, I'm not sure who it was now, something like Telstra or something like that, about $50,000 to get all the, you know, bring all the soil and beds and stuff in, because everything had to be transported from Alice. So the money went, like, we did it, we got it going, fencing, shading, irrigation, the whole thing. But it was, you know, we really enjoyed it, but it just didn't take, they just didn't own it. And so we had to walk away because it was just money. Only would go and things would have been taken from the infrastructure and used for something else. And you'd go there and the communities wouldn't be there, someone had died or they were in town or whatever and there was no one there. And so in the end, we walked away with it. We gave the lawyers had been fundraising, and what they wanted to do was keep the kids on country. So they had their primary school, but the kids went into Alice or into Adelaide or somewhere if they could get a scholarship away from off country, and that it's not great. So the Wataka Foundation put another room on the school, and they established a high school up to year 10. But in COVID, they closed the school. So we were out of there before COVID, but they closed the school, so I don't know what's happening there. There were about 20 kids on the roll in the primary school. It was very sad that they closed the school, so I'm not sure whether they've opened it again. There's still, the Wataka Foundation is still active and they still exist, but I don't really know what's happened. So it was a wonderful project, but we were just too far away. And, you know, it was again a case of white people going in and saying this will be good. And they have so much of that out there. There's so much money being spent there for so little gain. Just one particular place, Monmara, there was a couple there, and they had so much money. They'd had infrastructure for growing watermelons and all sorts of stuff, but the pumps broke down and no one fixed it. And when they grew the watermelons, no one came to take them away. Just disaster after disaster. This was awful. They have done really well. They set up their own business. They do cultural tours. It's wonderful, really wonderful. $60 a time to go around and see the food they eat and the stories about hunting and just fabulous things. So they've actually come out of it. But yeah, it's really a complicated issue, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah, so there's, yeah, that's right. So that's the school garden was still running when the school was going. So Christine, the fabulous teacher out there, was looking after that. And there's just some of the group there. So that's some of the work that we did. We set up an orchard, which I think is still going. That's part of the seed, the excursion that Chris and that Wanmara run, which is wonderful. So yeah, but it was a fantastic experience for us. We just loved that particular trip out there. Okay, next. And there's a bit more of the kids there. So that's us giving the kids a lesson, some of the infrastructure behind there. That was the compound where the Reg would take the high school kids in. So there was a couple of containers there and some shelter, and you could cook there and that sort of stuff. It was great for those kids from Sydney and Melbourne to come and spend some time. It's just it's just that being in that part of the world is just indescribably beautiful. It's just wonderful. So yeah, okay. So native food gardens. So we ended up putting together 2 native food gardens. This is where Jared Long comes in. So he was he actually managed both both projects, I think, in the end. So Emerald managed to get $20,000 for the guide hall, another $5,000 for another site, which didn't work, so we moved it to Purple Pear, even though it was private property. Once you've got the money, they don't want to take it back, basically. It's just too much trouble to take back the grant, so we just shifted it. So there was money through Merrill, federal money through Merrill, who's our local member. And the guide hall garden had a great couple of years because it rained, and a lot of the trees were quite rainforesty. It's looking a little bit worse for wear now. It probably needs a bit of a clean up, but the guides just loved it. It looks wonderful. They had a big bit of land on a corner in Maitland that had nothing on it. It was just horrible and dusty, and so we really transformed that into a lovely area. And then Mark and Kate's little one is just a little corner around still near the back of their house. If you're going out there, have a look at it. It's got a bit of fence around it. And that's just some simple stuff. There's not a lot in that garden. There's a bit more in the guide hall garden. So the plants all came from Noel Jupp, Noel Jupp at Gresford. It's just, oh my God, you need to know Joel. He's about 90. He knows all the plants from the Barringtons to the coast in the Hunter Valley. He's just a walking encyclopedia. Amazing. And internationally recognised for his knowledge. And so all the plants came from him. Maitland Council gets all of their plants for planting anything. They will come from Jupp's place. There's a whole lot of people who work there, and there's his daughter Rosemary, who's an expert as well. And Jared did the management for us. So Jared Long or Noel Jupp. Noel Jupp. It's not called Noel Jupp. It's just, as you go to Gresford, there's a little bridge. It's just on the right, just before you hit the bridge. It's very easy to miss. It's quite overgrown at the front. I've forgotten what it's called. Riverdene Nursery. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there is another one at in DigiPlants at Beresfield too. But I think the bigger plants came from there, but the smaller. Often tube stock for natives is better anyway. They go better, don't they? Yeah. Okay. So there's some pictures from those gardens. So they're mostly from the guide hall garden. So you can see how well it grew. There was nothing there, so that was just amazing. But we did have fantastic rain for those 2 years, and it just settled it all in. Our woodworkers, the Maitland woodworkers, made all the signs for us. They're just beautiful. And there's a bit of planting going on there, and the water tank was installed as well with irrigation attached. And there's Marcus. Yep. Okay, thanks. And that's the one at Purple Pear. So it's just I think the fence might still be there, I'm not sure. So yeah, lovely part of the world. Okay, so our current gardens that we're still involved in is probably the Hume Housing Garden. So that's a collaboration with obviously Hume Housing, which is one of the people who've taken on the state housing stock around Maitland, and I think around Newcastle as well. With Richard Hirschman, who is the Community Engagement Officer. So there's this complex in Rutherford down behind the shops. It's an over 55s complex. It's quite a nice area. It's a little courtyard. So we were given the IBCs chopped in half. 4 of those from someone who was a member who sadly passed away, and the daughter wanted to get rid of the bed, so we took them. And we just got those going, and it's all about establishing community, as all community gardens are. That's proving quite difficult to do. It's to get people out to do it. There's a couple of people that come out. We're hoping that'll build, and I know Richard is very keen for us to do a few more things like cook a little bit of a meal, or have a bit of a party and that sort of stuff. So we've been there probably since before COVID actually, planning it, but we didn't actually get anything done until COVID eased off, because it was an over 55s population that was seen as vulnerable, so we weren't able to go in, which is, it was okay. So, and we won the Hume in Bloom competition, I think because of the idea of it being a community garden that we'd put in there. So there was quite a lot of gardens on Hume properties that entered, and we somehow managed to win it. So we got some money from Bunnings. It was very nice. So that's a project that's just ongoing. So we just go once a month for an hour or so, and just take some biscuits and a cup of tea and get the locals out if we can get a few out, and just do a few things. There's only a very small patch, just 4 of those little beds. But it's a nice little project. So that's our only actual garden that we have anything to do with at the moment. Yeah. And then this is my passion. So this is, I could go on all night about this. This is what I do in my 2 days of work. I still work 2 days a week. So this the Talara Public School garden is part of a slow food thing because it started with me meeting Amaryl, probably about 2012 maybe, and she wanted a school that had a garden that wanted, or school that wanted a garden that she could have an involvement with, you know. So because I've always been a gardener, I was a primary school teacher full time, and I was at that stage I was looking at, I think I was off class, and you know how it goes anyway. So I said, oh, that'll be great, we do that, we're going to have that. And our boss at the time was very keen on the Stephanie Alexander program, which you probably know about. And so we got 5 beds, and we planted them up, and it just grew from there. So I went and did a course with Mark at Purple Pear for a couple of weekends and got an idea about design, and we just put it together. So we now have, it's just a fabulous program. We have 180 kids a fortnight run through it. So they garden, they don't all garden. That's probably overstating it because of the time limit. But and when they're in year 3 and 4, they garden, and then they harvest, and then we take it to the kitchen, and then we cook it. So we have a 2-hour session in the morning. The middle session, they don't get to garden because the sessions are shorter time, so an hour and a half. So the first group do double harvest for the next group. And then we do that 2 days a week. And we also take our year 6s in once a term for a round. We do 16 menus a year, and they're on for 3 years. So it's a substantial program. Hasn't got any NAT plan attached to it. It's just what we do. No testing. But the anecdotal evidence of how successful it is just overwhelming, like just overwhelming. So yeah, so they're on for the 3-year thing, because they actually get quite a long time at it. So they learn to chop things, they learn to measure things, they learn how to read a recipe and talk to each other, they learn how to wash up, how to sit down at a table, how to share a meal, you know, everything. They just learn so many things. Yeah. Anyway, I think there might be some more pictures. So yeah. So there's some of the little rug rats. Putting out some carrots. So I've got bananas growing behind. Keep going, just wick through. Composting. So we've got a system of composting. We've also got, they have a fruit scrap thing, a fruit break in the middle of the morning. They bring their fruit scraps up, they get composted. So I've got about 5 or 6 black bins, which work perfectly well with a compost stirrer, those green, fantastic things. They work, they do the job perfectly. I do get the occasional mouse in there, but it's hardly an issue. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Some tamarillos have died. Oh, seed saving, I was okay, that's all right. Some seed saving going on there. We've seen that picture. That was scarecrows that we made, and then COVID came and they didn't actually get down to the showground because there was no show. So anyway, that's a few years ago. Keep going. So this is that's quite a recent photo there. So I've entered the kids. We belong to the Grow It Local thing now, so entered them in that competition. This garden. This is about 3 weeks ago, I suppose. So that's part of it. It's a bit bigger than that, but that's part of it. So they're doing weeding stones. Not a very great job, but when they come to the garden, I have to think. I used to worry about how that was going to work. How am I going to keep 30 kids busy in the garden for even 10 minutes? How am I going to do this? The volunteers, we have a lot of volunteers, they come up with the kids, so I just go around the garden, I go, oh yeah, I need to cut those heads off that basil, I need to pull out that, I need to, you know, fertilise, give something a bit of a fertilise, I need that chopped up, the banana leaves chopped up and put underneath the bananas, and I need the double harvest. And so I just divide the kids into 6 groups or whatever it is, and we just do it. So I don't really do much planting. Kids need really good advice, really good help to do any planting. I don't know if you've ever given kids a pound of something to plant. It's just really quite difficult for them. But and then there's always a few things like stone weeding. If I haven't got any helpers, I have to do things that kids can do without supervision. So stone weeding is one of those, which is just keeping the paths clear. So yeah, what's next? There's another one. I got some pomegranates down the side. Yep. So whatever we've got in the garden, then we form our menu around that. So whatever is a lot, you know, abundance driven by whatever. So that was maybe last year. They're not so good this year. I don't know. I've got them netted because they get fruit fly. But anyway, yeah. Next one. Oh, that's just a bit of a, you know, arty-farty thing. Insect water. And that's a bird bath there too. So we've got a couple of bird baths. Yep. Comfy tea, and that's just sort of how it looks when you set this class up. There's another set of seats. So the kids, you know, sit down, we have a bit of a chat, give them instructions. As you talk about where the produce comes from in the world, or, you know, the history of the exploration around the world, or we bring all of that geography and history into it as well. Yeah, there's the kitchen, so some produce from the garden. Yeah, and a map, the globe is always around. It's some of the meals we do. They do 5 dishes per session. We just repeat that menu 6 times to get through the 2 weeks. Then they just sit down and share it all. So I'm not sure what that one was. Oh, that's a gnocchi there. I think it's a green gnocchi. Yeah, we do hand make all their pasta and all that sort of stuff. Breads and everything. That's just that's a planning sort of sheet. That's just why I write down what we're going to do when I get up there in the morning. Yep. Okay. That's quite abundant. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yes, yeah, pretty good. Well, the wicking beds have worked really well, so they've been wonderful over the drought, over the rain. They just keep producing because they drain. You can keep watering them, so they're fantastic. So what Slow Food does for this garden now is we generate a bit of an income. I just go and pick up some. I've been in today. Pick some herbs and take them to the market, and the Slow Food stall sells them for me. So because I can't access any cash money when I want it, I go to Bunnings tomorrow morning and say I want to buy that silver beet. I don't have to go to school and say, Dave, when you go to the Bunnings next Wednesday, which is your day, can you buy me that silver beet that I just saw this morning? So it doesn't work. So I have to have some cash. We also contribute a lot of seed to the seed library because I can just leave things to go to seed. And often if I get the timing wrong and things come good over holidays, sometimes I can just get left to go to seed. Like I've got some lettuce I'm sure is going to come right on the holidays, and we've got like 4-week break because we only do 8 weeks of garden, and then we have the last week of term is my gardening time and the first week is mine. So that's 4 weeks. So those lettuces are going to be perfect and we're not going to be doing anything with them. And then so we've opened, and we also put produce in the Maitland show, which we do the produce part of the Maitland show now. Slow Food sets all of that up and gets all the judges and does all of that part. So that's where Slow Food connects with the school garden these days, even though it's not a project anymore. So projects come and go, when they're finished, they're not. That's how it goes. Yeah, I know what else I've got there because that's my passion. What else have I said? Change the slide. Is that the end? Oh, no, okay. So this is the end one. So as a true grassroots movement, Slow Food Hunter Valley meets the local needs of the community in the area of food equity. As a slow food community, we know that the choices we make about every meal we eat are important in supporting and protecting the good, clean and food fair system. And I think for me, for Slow Food, you just like the news last night about those floods in Malawi, you think, oh my God, it's overwhelming, isn't it? So when you work with a group like Slow Food, you just have to focus on what you can do in your area, because if you don't, then you just would just go under a rock, and it's just overwhelming, isn't it, really? So it gives you a bit of hope that you can do something in your local food system, that you can improve the health of the kids at school, you can provide a place for the farmers to bring their produce and have it sold to an audience that appreciates it and doesn't rip them off, that you're not sending all this stuff to landfill, that you're actually feeding people who can't afford to feed themselves, that you're sharing the joy of seed and growing things with other people. So they're just little things that make you feel that you can do something, and just like you guys, it's just do something for the earth and for the soil, because we've just we've done so much damage, and we can only do what we can do locally. We can't go and fix up those poor people whose houses are washing away in Malawi. So it just, and every time we eat something, we make a statement about what we choose to eat, whether we choose to eat food that we know has been grown well locally if we can, that the farmer's getting a fair food for it, a fair pay for it, that everyone's getting a fair deal. So anyway, so thanks for listening to me. That's what we do. It's a lot, but it's good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Shall I hand this over? Yeah, it is a bit loud.
Yeah.
Any questions perhaps online or in the room? Any questions, Graham?
Good talk. Katie, any questions? Anybody online? Just put your hand up and Scott will negotiate the screen.
Hopefully we can see everyone from home in a minute. Let's see.
Yes.
The markets are weekly at the moment?
Fortnightly. So fortnightly. So the first and third Thursday. I meant to bring some flyers, but I ended up with a lot of things happening at the last minute. So first and third Thursday from 8:30 till, well, you need to be there in the morning. Don't go there at 1 because the people are gone. But 8:30. There's you can get eggs, you can get you can get flour. So Simon from Fosterton Flour, his flour and his bread and pastries. Meat. There's a meat producer, Morning Farm, and they provide they're from Dungog. Their meat is available at the Dungog butcher. Eggs, honey, which is now coming from out of the air. Well, leftover honey is just about all gone, but we're now taking honey from further afield because we haven't got any local. Fruit, vegetables, flowers. Sometimes there's nuts. Nuts. Sometimes nuts. What else? Yeah. It's a really nice little market. It's not that little actually. There'll be 12 to 15 producers there tomorrow.
Don't you just click in the screen? Click in there.
I was getting into the habit of going down to the farm park in Newcastle. That's okay. There are literally 2 or 3 actual farmers there. The rest are all resellers.
Yes, no resellers at all. No resellers at all.
We get the mushroom guys. I think that might be the same guys.
Yeah, probably.
Margins.
Margins.
Yeah.
Margins.
They do there.
Yeah, the mushrooms are beautiful out there. So, I mean, that's the thing, you get that stuff and you put it in the fridge and 3 weeks later it can still be. Because it was picked yesterday, they picked it today and they take it down tomorrow. So, it's just so good. Yeah.
It's nice that the council supports it too.
Oh, well, originally they wanted us there because we were going to invigorate the levy, but they had us in the afternoon. It was a disaster to start off with. So we'd have it for our hubs from about, I think it was 2 till 6 or something, and it was just, the shops around us would close at 3 and we'd just be left there. It was just terrible. So they wanted to get the nightlife on Thursday night going, but unless the other guys in the shops are open, they just, so it didn't work. So we moved it back to the morning, and it's much better for everyone because it's cooler for the producers. The produce looks better. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
just work off the screen.
It's very hot because it's got a westerly aspect, so the sun comes straight down the levee. The trees are looking at that, it's quite hot, so it's much better.
That's a lot going on for a group of volunteers.
I know, it's huge. But they're sort of siloed, so because there's 3 distinct projects, these guys do this, they work independently. If the leadership stepped away, they would still operate. They wouldn't have the overall publicity, social media type work, like I write a newsletter once a fortnight, all that sort of stuff. That would go, but they could still operate. Yeah, so they're siloed, but they're not. They're siloed, but then they're connected as well, which is really good. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, we're having some technical issues here.
Oh, I've had some questions.
But is there anybody who would like to ask a question? If you want to put your hand up on Zoom. No takers at the moment? No? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's good. Good. Okay, well, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That was very, very interesting.
Thank you.
And it never ceases to amaze me how it's up to volunteers in the community to take the initiative. It is phenomenal. You started obviously from a few really enthusiastic people. You've been going a while. You've now got some projects, as you said, which were quite mature. But I did like the fact that you told us about all these other projects that you tried. Some worked, some didn't.
That's right. Yeah.
And it actually reminded me. I went to India earlier this year, and my son married an Indian lady, so we went over for the ceremony. And we were in Goa and we're out for a walk, and there's these 2 fountains, and there's this big plaque, and I think it was something like, they're only about 4 years old. It was this big, community thing, these fountains to beautify this area of Goa, and they were derelict with rubbish thrown in them, with all the best intentions. If you haven't got it's this holistic thing. Everything has to fall into place. You've got to have some ownership and for people to take it on. And this is a challenge, I think.
Yes.
But certainly, as you say, if you don't start, you don't take the initiative, then it doesn't happen. And obviously, it has happened. So slow food is is going good.
It is going good.
And I've not been to the markets, but I've certainly heard about them.
Yes. Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that's good. So thank you for giving us your time, and it was great to hear about what you and your fellow members are doing.
Yes, well, there's lots of people that all put their hand up and all of it. So, yeah, like the treasurer and all the people that just, the community, it's a great community.
Being aware
Thank you.
of the organisation
Great.
for quite some time, but I had no idea of how broad it was, and I didn't know that it was international
No, it's national. They do have quite a bit of clout in the European sphere, so yes, they do. So they're not Mickey Mouse Group, they've been around for a while. Again, they've got their cred as well, so yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Very good.
It's important for Europeans they still have that.
Yes,
either.
That food culture.
yes, that's right, exactly right, exactly.
Ceremony.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
They haven't had that past through the Americanisation.
No.
Or grab the cake cut, fresh cut, sit down, have coffee.
Yeah.
Stand at a cafe.
Yeah.
That stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's the cultural things that are very
Yeah, you
important.
made me think because the hospital
Just
I'm at.
we'll pass the microphone to you because we've still got 8 people on Zoom. So
Speak into the microphone.
we'll pass the microphone to you so that everyone can be part of this conversation.
You made me really think about the high school that I'm at. Across the road is McDonald's. 4 blocks, 4 businesses down. It's the new Kentucky Fried Chicken drive-through service, which just breaks my heart. And I just think, what the hell's going on, world? Then there's Hungry Jack's. And then across the road from us on the corner is Subway. And I actually heard, so we had a whole lot of parents come today for an open day and they'd arrived early. And I just heard some of the staff going, oh, that's okay, just duck across the road and you can have a cup of coffee. And I just, all parts of wrong just went through me of they're completely surrounded.
Absolutely, totally immersed.
Yeah, and the kids don't batter an eyelid, like this is just normal, and it's like, oh, it's not.
Thank you. We do have a question from one of our Zoom people from tuning in from home. Lisa Grace is asking you, Anne, do you need volunteers at the school?
Not really. We have since COVID finished. We now, since they've let parents back into school, we're overwhelmed with volunteers in terms of the kitchen. The garden always needs volunteers, but I don't have any more time than I have at the moment to do that work. So I would need to be there for that initiative. And it's my time in the garden is not regular. It depends on what sport things going on or what other things going on. So my half a day gets shifted around over the 2 days. So I would like I need to have some sustainability. That's the problem. When I do decide to go, which will be in the next few years, the program will languish unless they pay someone to do what I do. I get paid to do what I do. I get 2 days a week, but to find someone who wants to do the gardening part is difficult. I know that's not a very good answer, is it? But it's just the way that it's structured at the moment. Having volunteer to help in the garden, for me, it wouldn't work at the moment, and I would need to be there. So, but potentially that should happen. I just need to get more people who can come in without me and do it. So and I'm not at that yet. So it's just part of I think it's part of the development of the program is for me to try and let go of some of that and try and work out a way of making that go on when I'm not there. So quite hard actually. It is a challenge.
It is. Okay, is that it? Now I can see. Hello, Robert. Did you have a question, Robert?
Not so much a question. I'd just like to thank Anne for such a comprehensive and inspiring talk. For what it's worth, Amaril's a near neighbour of mine up at Gresford, and I've helped her plant turmeric and garlic over the years. But I've learnt so much more tonight, even though I've talked to Amaryl, especially your work with schools, I find absolutely wonderful. And I've always been a bit puzzled by the term slow food. I've done various retreats where you chew your food. And the whole point being we don't have teeth in our stomach. So the more you chew your food in your mouth with the saliva, the more you truly appreciate it and the more truly you digest it. So I've always been a bit puzzled, but I've loved the idea of a slow food movement. But as you've described, there's a whole lot more to it than just chewing your food.
Certainly, yes. Thank you.
And so I think you should reach over and just pat yourself on the back, eh?
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I'll do that.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think it's getting quite late, so we might actually look to wrap up the Zoom very shortly. I'd like to thank you all for attending and taking the effort to you know, join in online, so to speak. Now, the event for the weekend, I think, has been postponed. Sadly, that's the visit to the community garden that was due to happen this Saturday, has been postponed. So we will get back to you on a new date for that. Part of the reason for that was because we didn't get a lot of people indicate in advance that they're going to come. So if you were intending to come in and suddenly you're going to miss out, next time please let us know in advance, and that will make sure it happens. So thank you for your attendance, and we will sign off until next time. Cheers. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.